No one can predict the events that will make tomorrow's news. The fires, the natural disasters, the government actions, the economic developments happen on a schedule all their own. They're news because they affect the world in which we live. Other events make the news, not because they change the world, but because they are as much a part of us as our friends, our families, our heroes are of them. During the next few minutes, we'll guide you through the Winston-Salem Journal from the inside out. We'll follow a story from the time it happens until it appears in the paper. It might look like magic, but it's not. It's hard work by the nearly 1,000 people at the Journal who bring the news to hundreds of thousands of readers like you every single day of the year.
Newsroom tomorrow.
The Journal's team effort starts here in the newsroom, as the editors, men and women who are in charge of the paper's different news departments, check their mail and survey the wire services. They're looking for new developments in ongoing stories and watching the people or events that will make tomorrow's news. At mid-morning, the editors hold the first of several daily meetings to discuss the day's top stories. In this Friday morning meeting, editors are already planning for the weekend.
Okay, Terry, you want to tell us what you got going for Sunday?
Biggest football game for our readership will be Appalachian State at Wake Forest. Tommy Bowman's going to cover the game. Lennox Rawlings will write a column off of it. We have to be able to have the story in the paper by a certain time so that we can get it to our readers. When Tommy Bowman goes out to cover a ball game, he knows what his deadline is.
This particular game tonight involves one of the teams in our first edition coverage area, which means a 10:15, 10:20 deadline for me. So that allows only 15 or 20 minutes to write the story. The first thing I do is set up, I have a portable computer. It's a TRS-80. Basically all that I need to do before the game is plug it in. And then open my briefcase, get my notebook out, make some notes on the game. Christine Rucker is the photographer for tonight's game. Basically, the photographers and the reporters, we have separate jobs, so our jobs don't interact over the course of the game, so I really won't even see her. She'll do her job on the field, and I'll do mine from the press box.
The first thing I do is I usually just practice focusing, get my eyes adjusted. The lenses are pretty powerful, so you really have to get used to it before you're focusing on the action.
When the game begins, Tommy must pay close attention to the action. He can't afford to miss a single play.
During the game, of course, I take notes as to what happened so I can refer back to them later. And I also, during a night game, when you're on deadline, I write the story as the game progresses.
Christine Rucker is clicking away, capturing another view of the game on film.
We're a third eye. We see things that the referee doesn't see. We see things that the reporters and announcers in the press box don't see. We really see everything inside of a play. So, you know, a ref might not call a foul or whatever, but we saw it.
The Journal team is under a deadline which requires them to finish their work and turn it over to others as quickly as possible. Christine will have to leave the game early to print the photograph she has taken. And even if the game ends on time, Tommy will have only a few minutes to finish his story and get it back to the paper, because the presses must roll on time. At the Journal, 2 floors below the newsroom, nighttime supervisor Danny Leonard helps press operators get the paper's 2 giant presses ready to go. And others load gigantic rolls of newsprint onto the reels, which will feed the presses during the night's run.
A large portion of our paper is recycled. The roll of paper will come in weighing approximately 1,800 to 2,000 pounds, and we'll get anywhere from 16 to 1,800 copies per roll.
Once it is loaded, Men carefully thread the huge sheets of newsprint up through the press until it stretches like a spider web from reels of paper located one story below. Upstairs in the photography department, Christine is looking through the negatives for the best shot.
I know how long it's going to take to develop the film. I know that part of it. But if they're running real tight, then I'm going to have to hurry up and pick something that they can use. When I'm finished with everything here in the darkroom, I'll take the print or prints out to Scott Williams. He's the guy that does the layout on the sports desk. Here's the stuff from the weight game. What kind of hole are we looking at?
Probably a vertical.
All right, that will work.
By the time Christine brings her negatives to Scott Williams, he is nearly finished designing the front page of the sports section.
One of the biggest things on a page is going to be the photo, and we have to place it on the page in such a way so we can get the best use of the photo. The space that we have on the inside pages is determined by the amount of advertising space that is sold.
Journal advertising account executive Sally Corpening visited one of her clients to sell ad space for Sunday's paper.
Bocock Stroud would like to advertise on a Sunday in the sports pages following a game because the readers, over 250,000 readers, are going to look at the pages to see what happened in sports. And those 250,000 readers are potential customers for Bocock Stroud. I'll go in and talk with him about how to arrange his headline, help him decide on copy and how to arrange that around the artwork. Then I will take the information the advertiser has given me to the artist who will finalize the artwork, the headline, the copy.
As the game ends, Tommy rushes to finish the first version of his story. Using a computer modem, he sends the article he has written back to the paper without leaving the press box. In a matter of minutes, the layout editor is looking it over.
We'll check the length of it first of all, make sure we have enough story to fill the hole that we have allotted for it. Look over it real quick to make sure there aren't any real problems with the content of the story. When I'm done with it, I send it to the copy desk. The copy editors there will do the final reading of the story, make the final corrections in content and grammar and spelling.
You know, I thought we was going to get in there. We had a good drive going. And
while the copy editors finish working on Tommy's story, he's still at the stadium interviewing players and coaches and double-checking facts. He'll include information from these interviews in stories he'll write for later editions of Sunday's paper. Back in the newsroom, Scott instructs the computer to assemble all the pictures and articles in the spaces he has designed. The brand new page is printed out in the composing room, where Calvin Petticourt is in charge.
When the page comes out of the image setter, the person on the trim board takes it and trims the excess paper off of the page. After they do this, they take it to the waxer. They run it through there to put wax on it so that it will stick to the grid sheet. The grid sheet is used to make sure that the page is straight and that it is in perfect position when the people in graphics shoot a negative of this page.
The page is photographed in the graphics department. Huge cameras produce negatives, which are then inspected on a light table for any defects or imperfections. Each negative is fed into a plate-making machine. The plates it produces are made of aluminum, which is recycled after each day's paper is printed. Once they're made, the plates are sent down to the press room on a dumbwaiter.
we have a plate drop that drops the plates down. And as the guys get the plates down, they'll put all plates in a proper position at the end of the units to where they go on this cylinder, so we'll have a proper plate up during the night's run, and as we get all the plates down, we'll be ready to start to press then.
Once the journal's presses begin to roll, press operators spot check the first 300 to 400 newspapers to make sure that the ink is spread evenly on the plates, that the blacks are dark enough, and the colors are correctly mixed. They have to be quick. Neatly folded newspapers shoot off the press at a rate of 30 to 40,000 per hour. Once they reach full speed, the presses kick out about 45,000 Winston-Salem Journal newspapers an hour. 6 days a week, more than 91,000 copies a day are printed. That total increases to 108,000 for the Sunday Journal. Freshly printed papers arrive assembly line fashion in the Journal's mailroom. Here, workers insert various advertising and other special supplements before the newspapers are tied by machine and loaded onto delivery trucks. The Journal's first edition is now on its way to the western counties of North Carolina. 2 more editions will follow in the early morning hours. By daybreak, over 100,000 people have received the Journal in a variety of ways. By mid-morning, over 200,000 people have read the Journal during breakfast, at work, and at school. They learn of tragedy halfway around the world, and they learn of triumphs in their own communities. They learn who's been married and who's been born. They are amused by comics and crosswords, and they are tempted by merchandise in their favorite stores. And the people who work at the Winston-Salem Journal start the whole process over again. Tomorrow, a new edition will be ready and waiting for thousands of readers when their day begins. A new day, a new edition. The Winston-Salem Journal.